It's finally been a few years since the last movie of the sequel trilogy came out from Disney's Star Wars trilogy, and while from the get-go the sequel trilogy seemed pretty promising, it was pretty clear after all three movies came out that there was kind of a lack of concentration on where the story was supposed to go, and I don't think it ended up going how they planned in the beginning. This is pretty much confirmed at this point by a lot of the actors, but especially now by Adam Driver, who played Kylo Ren. This comes to us from StarWarsNewsNet.com, and it says Adam Driver on signing to play Kylo Ren before Ben Solo's redemption was planned. In quotes, that was never a part of it. In a stunning move given how the last few years have played out, Adam Driver is talking about Star Wars for the second time within the past month. After talking to CNN's Chris Wallace about the process of signing on to do The Force Awakens, Driver recently stopped by the Rich Eisen show to talk about Kylo Ren's arc throughout the sequel trilogy and how that kept changing with time. Driver, who is currently out promoting Ferrari, said the following when asked if he knew he was playing, in quotes, Vader 2.0. He says, "I did, yeah, and I had an overall arc that, in mind, J.J. Abrams wanted to do. His idea was that Kylo's journey was the opposite journey of Vader, where Vader starts the most confident and the most committed to the dark side. And then by the last movie, he's the most vulnerable and weak. He wanted to start with the opposite. This character was the most confused and vulnerable, and by the end of the three movies, he would be the most committed to the dark side. I tried to keep that arc in mind, regardless if that wound up not being the journey anyways, because it kept changing while shooting, but I was still focused on that. With Ryan, he took it in a different direction, but it still tracked with the character. And then the last one, it changed into being, about them and the dyad and things like that. And evolving into Ben Solo. That was never a part of it. He was Ben Solo from the beginning, but there was never a version where we'd see Ben Solo when I first signed up for it." And I have to agree with StarWarsNewsNet.com with their later comments at the end of this article, basically saying this is not surprising. It's really not surprising to me either. Like I said, after all three movies came out, really while watching the third one, it was pretty showing that the sequel trilogy just lacked a concept of where it needed to go, and it was just kind of playing it by ear. I mean, we had two different directors working on it, almost three, but when you have multiple different directors working on different movies within the same timeline, when you have, J.J. Abrams had his own version of what was going to happen in the second movie, and then Rian Johnson came in and kind of changed things, and then Rian Johnson has his own, expectations on what's going to happen after his movie is over, and then J.J. Abrams goes in and just does his own thing. And yes, I know that it's kind of up to the writers at that point that we're probably with them, but it's probably hard for them too when they have different directors, with different ideas and different views on what the movie's supposed to be. I remember watching episode 7 for the first time in the movie theater, and I honestly was so excited to go see that movie, and I left the movie theater really happy with how it ended. I thought that episode 7 was perfect setup for episode 8, and yes, it was similar to episode 4, but that's kind of the fun about Star Wars, it kind of played itself over, and it was different characters, some returning, some new, some old, obviously, but it was a really fun, enjoyable experience for me as a Star Wars fan to just go watch that and see characters I really loved coming back to the big screen. Then episode 8 came out, and it kind of lost me a little bit. I actually remember leaving the theater, kind of excited for episode 9, not really sure what to think. But then episode 9 came out. I was hoping for, the return of Anakin, something to come back and, defeat Palpatine at that point in time. And then we got what we got. Snoke wasn't really a big part. It ended up being Palpatine. Just wasn't really sure where the concept of that really came from, except for following the original trilogy once again. But overall, I was disappointed leaving the theaters after that. And once again, it lacked a creative direction. I think that it was just all over the place. It was kind of a mess. But, there were characters I really ended up liking from that. I think Rey could be a good character. I really did like Finn's character. And I just absolutely love Adam Driver in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, that's really it from me, guys. I want to know what you guys think about Adam Driver's comments on the situation. Did you expect the fact that he didn't know what was going on? Or, did you expect that he would be told everything from the beginning? In my opinion, if you have actors working on a 3-movie trilogy, I think, especially in the Star Wars universe, it should have a definitive kind of ending. And, this isn't George Lucas anymore we're talking about. These are different directors and things, so things aren't always going to go the way we want. But, if they're going to go their own creative direction, I'd like to see it kind of as a full-fledged concept. And I'd like to see it from start to finish actually make sense. I hope you all have an amazing day. May the Force be with you. Leave a comment below with what you'd like me to talk about next.